Hey everyone, today we're discussing some of the worst add-ons from DBD history. Let's get into it. Blue Dress was an old Freddy add-on, back before his rework. His add-ons nowadays are pretty terrible, but this one is kind of next level. This gave the effect of reducing the chances of skill checks when in the dream world as a survivor. I presume this was meant to make it harder to snap out of the dream world by failing a skill check, but I'm not sure a slight reduction is going to help with that. If someone wants to get out, they're going to either way. It's a weird one because usually when it comes to skill checks, they are usually more frequent or sped up, but for this Freddy add-on, they were actually reduced. What is debatably worse though is the yellow version, the green dress. I know it's confusing. This version actually reduced skill check odds by more, but had the additional downsides of increasing the time to use your power and the time taken for survivors to fall asleep. The Ghost Soot was originally a green add-on and was incredibly unique in its effect, but also pretty terrible, and would have been useful for extremely niche scenarios, I imagine. The original version would keep your terror radius suppressed or silent after uncloaking whenever you're standing still. However, if you moved, this effect went away. By the sounds of it, it also didn't remove the red stain, so wouldn't have been that stealthy. Basically, you could uncloak whilst still and remain still to keep your stealth, but if you moved, it would all go. Very strange add-on. Cool, but very strange, and pretty terrible, I think. It might get you a few hits by hiding in areas, but you're also kind of relinquishing all pressure to take the option to stand still for a while, so yeah, I don't know. Adrenaline Injector is an add-on you've likely heard about. It's a Nemesis add-on that was changed recently, and given the effect of a 3-second extended instinct duration after survivors use a syringe. However, the devs seem to have missed that the brown version of this add-on, the damage syringe, gives the same effect, but also the effect of increasing the time it takes to use the vaccine by 3 seconds. Essentially, the brown is better than the yellow, with the yellow simply having less effects, but the same 3-second instinct duration. What's even worse is that despite all of this, these effects are absolutely terrible, so not only is it worse than its weaker counterpart, but the effect it currently has is just straight up awful. Vanity Mirror is an add-on that caps out your tears as Mayas at tier 2, but exchanges it for the ability to see through walls in a 16-meter radius. This is already kind of a gimmick effect, and is technically a meme add-on, so debatable if it deserves a place in this video. Prior to 5.3.0, it had the additional effect of a 7% reduction to movement speed, which is a lot. I actually think this wouldn't be so bad on Scratched Mirror, as you can get close due to the lack of terror radius, but as Vanity keeps you in tier 2, this isn't possible, and so seems like kind of a huge debuff. This was implemented just after his release too, and back then I think it was a lot tougher to catch survivors due to the existence of infinites and stuff like that. Scarred Hand is a similar situation to Mirror, being an add-on for Hag. The old version of this add-on nerfed you not only once, but twice. In its 1.3.1 version, it would remove the ability to teleport, and slow your movement speed down by 9%, and in return, it would give your traps collision, which is debatably also a nerf. Really, it's a triple nerf for the price of one add-on. Amazing. Playing Body Block Hag is not fun, with your only chance being on indoor maps for it to work well, and even then, you basically have to camp to make it work. It's really terrible. Add these nerfs and it's genuinely atrocious. Gold Creek Whiskey is an add-on we're revisiting, and this time I want to look into its old version. This add-on currently reduces your terror radius by 8 meters when aiming down sight. This is already really bad, with you only aiming down sight for a few seconds anyway at any given time, and it typically being in close enough proximity that the survivors will hear you. The old version of this add-on was something I overlooked though, because for whatever reason they thought that this add-on needed a downside for this ADS terror radius reduction effect. It used to have a reduction of 10% to your movement speed whenever you aim down sight. You're already pretty slow aiming down sight, and all this did was slow you down even more, in exchange for the already useless effect of terror radius reduction. Summoning Stone is a blight add-on. In its original 4.2.0 state, it was basically just a much worse version of its current one. Its current one is pretty great actually, and works well, blocking pallets in the area when you successfully hit a lethal rush. The old Summoning Stone though reduced this range of 16 meters to 12 meters, and the duration pallets were blocked for from 15 seconds to just 6. Now this was so terrible because 1. After being hit, you typically run to a new area as Survivor with your speed boost, and you can easily make a 12-meter distance in that time. 2. 6 seconds is nothing. After you're done hitting the Survivor, it takes 2.5 seconds to recover from the hit, so you're really getting some blocked pallets that they're likely nowhere near for about 3.5 seconds. Truly terrible. Next, I want to do somewhat of a twins combo and talk about a bunch of just terrible add-ons they've had. Baby Teeth in its original 4.4.0 state gave the effect of applying blindness to survivors for 15 seconds after they had removed Victor. I'm not sure why this was even a thing. 15 seconds is an incredibly short time, particularly as a character like the twins where Charlotte could be quite far away. I'm not too sure what value this is meant to even give you, with a weak status effect and a tiny duration. The Ceremonial Candelabrum is currently usable, with it extending the time needed to crush Victor by 0.2 seconds. Another really tiny change, with the original version being even less at 0.15 seconds. I talked about it in my Discord a bit, and apparently it can help, but it just feels so pitiful, I think. Personally, facing twins, I've never once had an issue of completing the kick after beginning it, so this add-on confuses me somewhat, and seems pretty terrible, I think. Sewer Sludge has never actually changed, but it also adds an additional timer onto Victor being crushed, only this time it extends the removal time of Victor by 2 seconds. This is really terrible, I think. The only times you're removing Victor anyway are when you're safe, and even then it's sometimes good to just hold him, so this add-on just doesn't make much sense at all. Waiting for You Watch was an add-on that makes laceration decay take longer whenever you ran out of blades as Trickster. I guess the purpose behind this was to allow you some more time to potentially reload mid-chase before returning to it, but that doesn't really happen that often. In the rare instance it does, you're probably close enough to the Survivor to where the decay meter isn't going to begin anyway. This is a bizarre effect, I think, and definitely one of the worst add-ons I've read, particularly as a green. It just seems pretty atrocious. Chainsaw File was an add-on for Bubba and Billy, and reduced the noise range of your chainsaw. It's unclear by how much, but it was slightly, which is the old vague terms for things. It was probably somewhere between 10 to 30%. This one might not sound so bad, however the thing about chainsaws is, they're pretty loud, and even at a 30% reduction, that isn't much. For someone like Bubba, who has to be close to use his chainsaw too, there is literally no purpose to this add-on because he doesn't have a stealth element when moving or using his power. Billy I can kind of understand, as you could charge from a distance and kind of snipe someone, but that's really still a narrow usage for this. Black Grease is an add-on that sped up the cooling rate of Billy's chainsaw when it overheated, whenever a flashlight was shining on you. Yep, that was an effect. I truly don't believe there will ever be a natural instance where this would have activated, and this just might be the worst add-on ever made. Big Buckle is another good example of terrible terror radius changes and a good contender for worst Billy add-on. This add-on alters your terror radius by 8 meters after entering overheat with your chainsaw. Terrible activation requirement and terrible subsequent effect. Maybe actually one of the worst add-ons that we currently have. Honing Stone is an add-on I want to mention. There's kind of an asterisk on this one because in fairness the effect is still great, but man does it kind of suck too. The add-on has the same effect it currently does of putting survivors who get trapped into the dying state, only back in 1.1.2 it only had a 50% chance of working. And really, with traps not being too frequent, this makes it an unreliable, random, and I imagine was just a generally frustrating thing to use. There's also a chance, I presume, that you could get unlucky, what with the 50-50 odds not being that high, that this would never work during a match. It's just such a weird idea, I think, to tag a 50% chance of the add-on working onto it. That just doesn't feel right. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed. Thanks, and goodbye.